I get comments on my videos, and I hear comments from people that I talk to, and I see comments on other videos where people are like, well, you know, you're claiming that Islam isn't true, or Buddhism isn't true, or Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong, or the LDS are wrong. How do we know that your religion, Christianity, is any more valid than the rest of them? And I hope to, over the years going forward on this channel, make videos that explain things, but I do want to say that it is not, a lot of people have the idea that Christianity is just a feeling, and there's so much more to it than that. I have personally encountered, felt the presence of, and heard the voice of God. But even beyond that, because a lot of people are going to say, well, you're just being emotional, and that's not any different than a Mormon, for example, who gets their testimony about Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon by praying about it and getting a feeling. And my answer to that is, you're absolutely correct. But the difference is that I have also taken the time to research not only Christianity, but other faiths as well. I've dug deep into the history of the LDS Church, the Mormons. I can tell you about a lot of the different offshoots, the different denominations. I can tell you a lot about the early members of the church, Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, the different accounts of the first vision, the changes to the Book of Mormon, that kind of thing. But more importantly, I have done the research and dug into Christianity. I can tell you that there are about 5,500, maybe 5,600-ish copies or partial copies, fragments of the New Testament that are in Greek. I can tell you that within the first 400 to 500 years that there are 400 or 500 copies of it, and if you compare that to other ancient writings, Plato, Socrates, Seneca, things like that, that the New Testament by far and away is a better document. I can tell you that even atheist historians will agree that Jesus Christ was a real person, that he lived and died and was crucified, and that his followers believed that he had been resurrected from the dead. I can tell you that I've checked into the archaeology, the fact that when a city is mentioned in the Bible, more often than not, they have actually found that city. They know where it is. I can tell you that they have found inscriptions not only in Israeli archaeology mentioning King David, but they have found references to other Israelite kings and historical figures that are in the Old Testament, and that these other kings from the Egyptians and the Babylonians and the Assyrians have made references to these people. I can tell you that the Pool of Siloam, where Jesus healed, they found that pool recently, about 5 years ago at the time that I'm making this video. And not only did they find it, but it's actually the way that it was described in the New Testament, that it's described that it has 5 porches. Well, guess what? When they dug it up, it has 5 porches. Looking at things like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Qumran caves, and the fact that they found an intact copy of the book of Isaiah from hundreds of years before the time of Jesus, and it still says the same thing that the modern copies of the book of Isaiah that we have say. I've done the research. I've looked into these things, and I'm not doing anything that somebody can't do. I am not a professional pastor. I am not an ivory tower theologian. I don't teach at a Christian college or university or a seminary. I'm an average guy. I haven't done anything that you can't do too. But I can tell you this. After researching, I've researched Hinduism. I've researched, Japanese religions, Taoism, Shintoism, Buddhism. And I've looked, honestly, long and hard at atheism. And all of these religions, and the one that makes the most sense, the one that is most logical, the one that there is the most evidence for, is Christianity. So I'm not just spouting my opinion when I make these videos. And when people say, well, that's just you and your beliefs, and no, there's more to it than that. I've really thought about this, and that's part of the thing that I'm trying to get people to do with this channel, is to really think about what you believe and why you believe it, and to be willing to ask questions. Because if your faith will not stand up to good, logical questions, if you can't do research to back it up, if your scriptures talk about a city, like the Book of Mormon talks about the city of Zarahemla, they've never found it. They've never found any of the coins from the Book of Mormon. They've never found any artifacts from the wars that are in that book. There's no arrows heads. There's no swords. There's no chariots. If you can't find evidence for your faith, then that's probably not the right faith. And that doesn't say that Christianity doesn't have an element of faith where you at some point have to just choose to believe. But it's not blind faith. It's not just, I choose to believe this, or I have a feeling that this is true. There is some good, hard evidence for Christianity. And don't believe all the things floating around on the internet that, Jesus borrowed from this and that and 6 other different pagan gods. It's not true. When you do the research yourself, when you dig in, when you actually look for the truth, Christianity is the only religion that stands up to the intellectual test. It is the only religion that makes sense for a person who is thinking and putting their brain in gear. So the next time you wonder about, is Christianity true? I urge you to actually think about it. Do some research and find out for yourself. It will stand up the test, and no other religion will stand you really thinking critically about it.